Who knows? Who knows? Maybe they did not want Netanyahu. And you can see that now there is no protest against Netanyahu. What happened to the trial, that corruption trial against Netanyahu? It's all very quiet now. He has proved his worth. So no trial, no protests now. The judiciary is pleased. Everybody is pleased. So you can see everything is fine now. But from about Starlink, I completely agree with you. Starlink needs to be kicked out. We can't have Starlink in India. Aryan Tejas, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Divnu Singh says, does India have its own UAPs? Well, I haven't seen any personally. I hear rumors of such activity sometimes happening in the far north of India, the Himalayan region, etc. But I don't know. I'm not sure that we have our own UAPs. I don't see any reports coming out on social media or any such thing. See, today everybody has a cell phone. Everyone can take at least a bloody kind of image if there's a UAP somewhere. And you sometimes see people taking videos of missile launches, rocket launches, and so on whenever they happen. The contrails, glowing contrails, whenever there's some kind of re-entry of space debris, like what happened a couple of days ago over Delhi and Noida. People take videos and the videos flood social media. So the people of India are ever ready with their cell phones, right? But you don't see videos of UAPs or UFOs emerging out of India. So it looks like we don't have that, as far as I can tell. Sam is a new member. Thank you so much, sir, and welcome to membership. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. In 1991, what was my reaction when the USSR dissolved? In 1991, I was an immature child, and I was very, very taken with American propaganda. So I was like, yes, the evil empire has dissolved. The world is now free and democratic. That's what I believed at the time. You see, you learn, you evolve. Many of the beliefs you have, they change over time, and they should. Otherwise, you're not learning. You're not growing. In 1991, when the Americans invaded Iraq, I was like, why isn't India getting involved? We should be on the right side of the world. Saddam Hussein is this evil dictator. We should be taken out. That's what I believe is this silly, naive, immature child. I was at the time deep into my study of history and whatnot, but I still did not have the patterns. I could not still see the patterns yet. I could not really tell what's right and what's wrong at that time, right? So yeah, I was a naive, immature, silly child. And I was like, yes, USA, the best country in the world. Kennedy, best president. Yes, sir. USSR evil. Saddam Hussein, Saddam it. Okay. Arvind Srinivasan says, outcome for the country if from the 11th instead of NCERT, texts like Halliday Resnick, Atkins, Thomas Calculus, etc. are introduced along with Clausewitz and Little Heart and martial arts training. It'll be a transformative thing for India. I mean, I don't understand why we wallow in mediocrity. I recently saw some textbooks for the 10th standard for mathematics. Those textbooks are atrocious. They gave me a headache. How do you teach with those textbooks? If you want to do algebra and number systems and what they call surds, which is irrational numbers and whatever, why do you teach it in the wrong order and with so little problem solving? How on earth do you expect children to understand? The simplest thing is give kids the Shom series book on introductory algebra and whatnot, introductory trigonometry and geometry. You don't need anything else. Why do you have to reinvent the wheel and that to create an inferior wheel? So I would say if we do this, if we introduce all the Shom series books as the textbooks, that will transform. See, if you have the Shom series book, okay, I have a whole bunch of Shom series books over here. I still have my old ones. I have like basic stuff like college algebra and whatnot, children level stuff. The point is, if you have a Shom series book and you want to learn algebra, you don't need a teacher. You don't need a teacher. That book teaches you everything. It holds your hand and teaches you everything from A to Z. It will put teachers out of business. That's the problem. That's why they don't introduce Shom series books in India. You take Halliday Resnick, and if you have the basic mathematical understanding, you don't need a physics teacher. You don't even need Halliday Resnick for physics. You can take the books by Shom for physics. So the point, you don't need Thomas Calculus. I've never seen Thomas Calculus. Go with Shom series calculus. They have a basic calculus, they have advanced calculus, and whatever. Tensor, you don't need tensors. The point is, the best books in the world exist. Just get those books and give it to the kids. And then if you also introduce martial arts training, well, imagine how it will weaponize the Indian minds, not just mentally but physically. It will transform India. But why will the government of India do that? They won't do it. We need reservations. We need all this nonsense. We need to keep India down and mediocre. So frustrating. Timbuktu Panda says, should INR be backed by Bitcoin and gold standard? I am very, very suspicious of Bitcoin and all this stuff. Gold, sure, absolutely. Gold is great. Gold is the only real store of value historically, even today. Bitcoin and all, one solar flare and all your Bitcoin is fried. Okay, so yeah, I don't trust Bitcoin. It's not a long-term store of value. It's not. Gold is. Unknown user says, global left runs narrative in every country. In India, the push narrative of making citizens feel more inferior, the Indian inferiority complex. It's perpetuated by the education system, by your textbooks, by your goddamn professors and teachers, and also by the news media and the entertainment industry and all that. The whole society perpetuates this. It's a self-perpetuating loop. So how will this change? Will the left always remain strong, and is collapse of the left possible? Anything is possible. How will it change? It'll change when India has the right kind of leadership, really strong leadership. Anything is possible. What is the left? The left is, in India at least, the left is allegedly a bunch of mercenaries who will work for allegedly the highest alleged bidder. Allegedly, that's the Indian left. In China, the left is the Chinese Communist Party, and they are supreme patriots. In the USSR, the left were the the Soviet Communist Party, right? And they were also patriotic. They were not. They executed traitors, right? But in India, allegedly, the left is a bunch of alleged mercenaries who allegedly work for the highest alleged foreign bidder. So 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 it will change if we have the right leadership. When we have the right leadership, strong, iron-fisted leadership. Is the collapse of the left possible? Of course, it's possible. Divnur Singh says, so democracy has almost failed all across the globe. Is a China like one party rule better, or North Korea like dictator, or Stalin like socialism? I would say for every country every country depending on its culture, on its values, should have its own form of governance. See, we have done this experiment with democracy. Has it really worked out for India? We have the oldest known history of all cultures on the planet. And think back to the times when India was at its peak, culturally, civilizationally, economically. Before the 1700s, India was the world's largest economy. I'm not claiming it. Anders Madison has shown it, the American economist. So, what were the times when India was at its pinnacle? Overall, as a power. You can think of the various imperial periods: the Mauryan Empire, the Kushan Empire, the Gupta Empire, the Chola Empire, the Maratha Empire, and so on. So, what do all those periods have in common? Imperial rule, non-democratic rule. But what kind of imperial rule? What is an imperial rule? It's a dictatorship with a dictator, which is the emperor. But what kind of dictatorship or imperial system did we have during all those periods? The Mauryan period, the Kushan period, the Gupta period, and so on. It was dharmic dictatorship, right? So for India, that's what will work best. Dharmic dictatorship, which means a benevolent dictator. Example of benevolent dictator: Lee Kuan Yew, great man, iron-fisted ruler, but a great man who spent his entire life dedicating himself to the upliftment of his people and his country. That's what you need, right? So I would not say that we need someone like Stalin. I would say we would need someone like Vishnugupta Chanakya plus Chandragupta Maurya, or Ashoka the Great, who was possibly both of them combined into one, or perhaps someone like Kanishka the Kushan, one of the greatest Indians ever, or maybe someone like Skandagupta or Chandragupta II, or maybe someone like Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, or someone like Rajendra Chola, that sort of thing, right? Someone who walks the path based on the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, not Gita, Gita, the Gita of Bhagwan. Who? Shri Krishna, the man who tried his best to avert war, but when all attempts failed, he said, kill them all, the evil guys. Right, MK says, is the government of India aware of ministers whose family members are Western citizens and how to handle it? And how will India now act on the next Dalai Lama? Is the government of India aware of something? Well, you have to ask the government of India, not me. I am not a representative of the government of India. So I am not the person to ask this question, sir. I think whatever the situation is look, if everyone knows it, I'm sure the government of India also knows it. By government of India, what do you mean? What do you exactly mean by government of India? Do you mean Shri Modi ji? I suppose Shri Modi ji knows everything. How to handle it? That's for Shri Modi ji to decide. At least we can trust him, right? How will India act on the next Dalai Lama? It will all depend on how China behaves. We shall see. All right? We shall see. It will depend on China's approach and attitude towards the India-China relationship over the next coming period of time. India and China are now both being targeted and encircled by the US. So is Russia. The US it looks like it's hell-bent on creating RIC. But how will China approach this? How will China behave? What is China's approach and attitude going to be like? Depending on that, and what do I mean by that? I mean that if we want a constructive India-China relationship, that can never happen unless the core issue is resolved, which is the undemarcated India-Tibet border. Will China show willingness to resolve this in a certain time frame, or will they keep dragging their feet? If they keep dragging their feet, then to hell with China. We'll see. We'll figure a way out. Because without resolving this issue, you can never normalize India-China relations. So it will all depend on the approach of China. Vivek Singh says, the Ministry of Defense is beating around the bush to buy the IAF squadrons? Why are we unable to decide our way ahead? We are stuck with air independent propulsion and SSN submarine delays too. I think the government of India needs to really get its act together. It is imperative that we transform ourselves over the next, I wouldn't say 10 years, maybe 3 to 5 years maximum, into a nation with real teeth. Real teeth. For that, we have to transform ourselves into a very powerful military equipped nation. And the Navy is a key component to that. And we still have what, 15 submarines? What, are we a joke of some kind? 15 submarines? So I think it's high time the government gets its act together. Um, I would say, see, right now we are hearing that we are going to buy more Rafales. There is this very tempting offer of the Sukhoi 57 also. And we have the Tejas Mark 1A and then the AMCA and all that. And the key to all of that is the jet engine issue. We have to find the best way forward, and we cannot keep on dragging our feet. The past 11 years, we are waiting for an announcement for the next big purchase or acquisition of a large number of fighter planes. What on earth is going on? So I'm sure the government alone isn't the cause of the problem. Maybe there are issues with the Indian Air Force, etc. also, possibly. Whatever the issues are, resolve the issues. You can't allow these procedural delays and bureaucratic delays and whatnot, and some individuals potentially, allegedly, whatever, hypothetically, to affect the national interest and to hurt the national interest. So we need to resolve this jet engine imbroglio at the earliest. We need to acquire, I would say, 50 submarines, build, buy, beg, borrow, steal, whatever. We need at least 50 submarines, I would say, and whatever else. So as a stopgap measure before we can have the AMCA rolling out in another 10 years, maybe set up production lines of the Sukhoi 57 as well as the Rafale 44.5, whatever in India. Set up 2 production lines. We are already using Rafale aircraft. So we know how to use those. Set up production lines, build 100 or so, and build another 100, 200 Sukhoi 57s, and acquire the technology if the Russians are offering it. And that will also obviously help us, build derivatives of those aircraft. So we can build our own Sukhoi instead of 57, 67 or whatever eventually. So that's what we need to do, and that too soon. Divnur Singh says, today Germany says it will command Europe if the US pulls out. Some Germans say Uncle H wasn't really that bad. Uncle H. Heard some of his speeches, looks like it's true. Was it 6 million or 271,000? Very controversial questions. I have no idea. Was it 6 million or 271,000? I don't know. I grew up believing that it was 6 million. As a kid, when I lived in Europe, I used to watch these World War II documentaries. And I was like, yeah, German Nazis killed 6 million Jews. And only Jews, nobody else. Later, it emerges that at least, I don't know, about 1 million plus Romanis were killed, apparently. And the numbers have been consistently understated. That entire story has been brushed under the carpet. And Jews like Eli Wiesel, what's his name? Eli Wiesel, or whatever his name was. What was it? Let me see. Eli, what's his name? Elie Wiesel. This gentleman, okay, Romanian-born Jewish Nobel laureate, etc. And he tried to kind of sweep the Romani thing under the carpet. Romani. Oh, nothing about this on Wikipedia. That's interesting. Nothing about this on Wikipedia. Eli Wiesel, Romani. Romani. Gypsy. What about it? So this entire thing is now you will not find anything about this. Remembering the Roma victims of the Holocaust. Okay, this lady, it was claimed she was Jewish. She was actually Romani. Her name was Tela Steinbach. Okay, so Eli. Okay, so that entire story seems to have been airbrushed out of existence, it looks like. Yeah, so Google won't show you this now. Very interesting that Google won't show you that. So there was this plan to create a memorial for the victims of the Holocaust in the US somewhere during Bill Clinton's time. And there was, they had intended to also honor the Romani victims of the Holocaust. And this guy, Eli Wiesel, was against that the Holocaust belongs only to the Jewish people and the Romanis don't matter because they're brown, right? That sort of thing. So yeah, there we have it. So Germany says it will command Europe if the US pulls out. Okay, well, let's see if Germany has any leadership. Who's the current German chancellor? The guy who went to the White House and presented the birth certificate of Donald Trump's grandfather or something? The guy who sucks up to the US, that guy? I don't think there's any leadership in Germany today. So if there's no leadership in Germany, how will they take over the leadership of Europe? I don't see that happening. Some Germans say Uncle H wasn't bad. Well, some Americans also say Uncle H wasn't bad, right? And if you hear his speeches, see, I remember those black and white speeches. When you listen to those speeches in German, they sound very aggressive. But when you actually listen to the translations, he's not saying anything aggressive at all. He's actually talking about policies and whatnot, economic policy and all that. Nothing about kill the Jews or whatever. But it doesn't mean that he did not kill the Jews. So we don't quite know what the truth is, a lot of propaganda, a lot of narrative stories and whatnot. Ritvik says the US is powerful, has vassalized so many countries. Why can they still not dominate over Russia? Like Russia destroyed Ukraine, can't we attack neighbor? The Russians haven't destroyed Ukraine. Russia hasn't destroyed Ukraine. Go to Kiev, you can. Kiev is okay. Many of the Ukrainian cities are completely intact. The war is happening on the wheat fields of Ukraine. It's not really, and in some whatever. Most of Ukraine hasn't been destroyed. The US is powerful, they can't still dominate. Why can't they dominate Russia? Because the Russians are also powerful. They have more nuclear warheads than the US. Simple. The Russians are not, they are not a doormat. Defeating Russia isn't that easy. Russia has more nuclear weapons and the means to deliver those nuclear weapons than the US. So Russia has taken the precautions it needs to take. That's why the US aren't able to dominate Russia. Why can't we attack neighbors? Because our neighbors are assets of the US. You yourself have mentioned, sir, that the US has vassalized so many countries. Well, if you look at East and West Pakistan, these are US vassals. Nepal is a newly minted US vassal. The US is pressurizing Afghanistan to hand over the Bagram Air Base, which will once again vassalize Afghanistan. So the Americans are creating a ring of thorns around India, a fence of thorns. Look at Myanmar. Look at the disaster in Manipur. What is the cause of the disaster in Manipur? Project K, Cookie Land for Christ. Who is orchestrating that? So if you think that India is that powerful that you can attack and take over American vassals in our neighborhood, well, I've got some news for you. We can't. You'll say, why is India so weak? Look at China. They want Taiwan. Taiwan is right next door to the Chinese. Can they take it? They can't. That's how powerful the US is. Please don't underestimate how powerful the US is. And that will tell you how powerful Russia also is. Gallagher says, need a thoughtful answer, not a politically correct one. I'm going to give you diplomatic answers because I have a life to live too. You have to be able to understand what I'm saying. Now, what's the question? Is racial contempt a weapon? Untermenschen von die Ost leading to 22nd June. Are you talking about Kristallnacht? What was 22nd June 1941? Let me check it out, okay? I don't remember all the dates. I don't memorize dates. Let's see. 22 June 1941. What happened? Kristallnacht, was it? It was Operation Barbarossa. 22nd June 1941. Operation Barbarossa. Okay, so what are you saying? Leading to 22nd June 1941. What about the Anglo-Saxons? Racial contempt. The Anglo-Saxons are a supremely racist people. That you should know. See, let me explain. You don't want a politically correct answer. Let me give you a plain answer. The Germans have this concept. Let me show you the concept. Why are the Nazis evil? Why do we consider the Nazis to be evil? Because of one of the reasons is this concept. Lebensraum. Lebensraum. The territory which a group, state, or nation believes is needed for its natural development. It's a German concept of expansionism and folkish nationalism. Look, it was a German concept of expansionism. So the Germans said that Germany, the nation of Germany, is not enough territory, it's not enough space for the German people to thrive in. We need more land. We will take the land of the Slavic peoples and we will settle Germans there. And that's going to be our Lebensraum, the land that the German people need to thrive. So we will take land from the Slavic peoples. What will happen to the Slavic people there? That. Okay, we'll kill them off, or we'll send them to Siberia, which is another euphemism for killing them off. So the Nazis were so evil, they wanted to take over the land of the Slavic peoples to the east of Germany, more than Germany, land that is more than the nation of Germany, and they will get rid of the people who live there, eliminate them, and settle Germans there. And that's how Germany will thrive. Such an evil concept, right? Lebensraum. Now think about it. The Nazis, so naturally we consider Nazis to be evil because they have this evil concept. Take someone's land, exterminate those people, and settle your people there. Lebensraum. Now, the Anglo-Saxons, what did they do in North America? They implemented the concept of Lebensraum on a continental scale. Not just in North America, also on another continent called Australia. They wiped out the natives of 2 continents and created Lebensraums there. They took the concept and implemented it on such a scale that the Nazis could not even dream of such a scale. The Anglo-Saxons. Who's the original Nazis? Am I being politically correct now? And what was behind all of this? The belief that they are superior, and the brown-skinned people who lived in these places, their life was worth nothing. So they exterminated between 50 to 100 million Native Americans and God knows how many Native Australians. Yeah, there you have it. Divnur Singh says, is a controlled demolition happening of the US? They can deconstruct the US and make it seem like they lost power naturally to fool us. I mean, who's they? Who is they? I don't think a controlled demolition is happening right now. A controlled demolition of Europe is happening. That I can see. Europe is being deindustrialized. All of that is being done through Brussels. So Germany has shut down its nuclear reactors. They've dismantled their nuclear reactors. They now burn coal. What about global warming and all that BS? What happened there? So Germany now no longer has access to a plentiful source of cheap energy, which you need for a large economy, for a manufacturing-based economy. That energy was coming in from Russia, Russian gas. That's not available anymore. Nord Stream has been detonated, and the whole of the European. See, there are two major economies in Europe. One is Germany, one is France. How are they doing? Not great. Germany is going backwards. It's contracting, and overall Europe is not doing great at all. Europe is stagnating. So economically, Europe is kind of dead. Geopolitically, it's irrelevant. Geopolitically, it's not powerful. Now they're going to put more of the bill of NATO, the more of the burden of NATO. They're going to double their expenditure, the share of the GDP which goes to defense, which is going to prioritize American interests in the region, not their own interests. None of the nations are sovereign. All of the nations are saddled with increasing illegal immigration, which is being done by Brussels. Brussels decides how much immigration each nation needs to take every year, and you get only certain flavors of immigrants, military age males from certain regions of the world only, right? So Europe is being destroyed in this manner. We are witnessing a controlled demolition of Europe for sure. Now the same is beginning to happen in Japan. So they're going to bring in a whole bunch of God knows what kind of people into Japan. I can see a lot of Bangladeshis appearing in Japan, and God knows what other kind of people appearing in Japan. And obviously the people of Japan don't want that, but who cares? And when it comes to the US is increasingly polarized. The education system is increasingly garbage. So the American people can't think for themselves anymore. And yeah, so it looks like the West is imploding in some sense, but it's all being done in a precise, calibrated manner. So who's doing all this? I would say, well, the finger of blame would typically go towards the deep state, whatever that is, right? And why would you deliberately give up your power? You're not really giving up your power, but you're just transforming the world the way it is. And actually, whoever could potentially be your threats to you, those people you're gonna defang them. Essentially, that's what it looks like. Godliness says first the 50% tariff, then the Saudi Pak deal, then sanctions on Chabahar, now the H-1B visa fee, now discussion on CATSA. What next? What's next? Next, eventually sanctions on India. What next? India-Pakistan war. Maybe Bangladesh. Maybe Myanmar weaponized further against the whole of the northeast of India. Maybe Afghanistan is again under US occupation, and from there they can support Pakistan. If you want Pakistan to go to war with India, then why don't you retake Bagram Air Base, which was under your occupation for 20 years, and create a powerful American airbase there. So in case Pakistan gets hammered, they can intervene. India is being encircled right now. Will this stop? Will this go further? It's going to go further. It's going to go further, sir. Sid says, how long will it take us to reach China's level of infrastructure, durable roads, nationwide high-speed rail, efficient drainage, and low air pollution? Look, high-speed rail, let's take one example, high-speed rail. Well, the first high-speed rail is coming up between what? Mumbai and Ahmedabad, the bullet train, right? That started when? Close to a decade ago, the first construction of the whole thing, the beginning of the construction of the project. And then there were delays in some parts of the route for apparently political reasons. I'm not sure. And it'll still take apparently a few years before the high-speed rail bullet train thing becomes operational. So what's the distance between Mumbai and Ahmedabad? 800 kilometers? Let's go to the map and quickly figure it out. What's the distance? 800 or so kilometers. Let's quickly go. Let's do a straight line distance between Mumbai and Ahmedabad. Measure distance, roughly. Okay, it's not 800. Excuse me. It's 450 kilometers. That is tiny. It's a short stretch of high-speed rail. 450 kilometers. And that is taking like a decade or something. At that speed, it's going to take us a century to have half the kind of coverage that China has. The Chinese do things at a breakneck speed, not at a snail's pace. So if you want nationwide high-speed rail at the speed at which things are going currently, it's going to take you more than a century. You see? Durable roads. Well, if you go to most Indian cities, allegedly, you will see that roads are rebuilt every year, allegedly. Every year, you build a new road. I mean, you lay the road again, allegedly. And then a few weeks, allegedly, after the road is relaid, some people will come and start digging it up. Government employees, allegedly. And they will lay new pipelines or whatever, allegedly, and then again repatch the road. And now it's no longer straight and it's all full of potholes and whatnot. And then allegedly during each rainy season, the roads will disintegrate into potholes and moon-like surface, allegedly. And the next year, the process starts again. This is money laundering, obviously, right? Allegedly. So if this is allegedly the norm in some parts of India, then it will take essentially an infinite amount of time for us to have the same sort of level that China has of infrastructure, durable roads, straight, flat roads without any potholes and whatnot. It can be done. It can be done tomorrow if you want, but for that you will have to launch a war on the alleged corruption that exists allegedly across India, allegedly. Yeah, so I have no idea. How long will it take? Close to an infinite amount of time, the way things are right now. Divnur Singh says, do you think a conservative America is a stronger America? I was personally in MAGA for a while. Looks like everything is better in general than the liberals. Overall, I think any nation, if it is conservative, is more stable. See, what is the liberal movement? The liberal movement is about rapid change and moving away from the past. The liberal movement is predicated on the belief or the concept that traditional systems are oppressive in some manner. It's all based on Marxist ideology. So traditional systems are the systems that are rooted in tradition that go back centuries. And those obviously constructs are all oppressive constructs because they marginalize the proletariat and they uplifted the bourgeoisie and they gave rise to all these lumpen elements and so on. So you have to dismantle that, and you have to bring everybody on the same footing, same even level. So essentially, that's the foundation of the liberal movement. And you will see that in liberal movements everywhere around the world, even the first liberal movement that you can think of, which is the French Revolution, was all about liberté, égalité, fraternité, equality of people, liberty, equality, fraternity. And obviously, that can only happen if you lop the heads off the bourgeoisie and the royalty, right? So the liberal movement is all about that. It's about dismantling institutions. It's about dismantling social structures. It's about dismantling traditions. But what are you going to replace all of that with? You're going to have to replace institutions with new institutions. But new institutions create new traditions. And most people, the average person, needs some kind of framework, moral, ethical, etc., and religious framework based on which they can live their life. Most people can't think for themselves a priori from first principles. Most people need that guidance that comes from outside, which is the role that religion and culture and tradition has traditionally played. And that's why it makes people rootless. So it's a problem. If the whole country is liberal, then it's a country full of chaos and anarchy. Which is why you will find that no matter which country you are in, even if it's whatever the type of religious system etc. you have, conservative movements are generally more stable and generally better overall. So I know that MAGA, from an Indian perspective, MAGA isn't good for India. The MAGA, the people the average MAGA person hates India, right? They hate brown people, they hate Hindus, and so on. Which I'm sure you would have realized at some point in time that there is this undercurrent that flows below the surface. But yeah, overall, it's better than the liberals for the country itself, not for other countries possibly, but for the country, for the US itself. Yeah. Okay, Project Smiling Buddha says assessment about Prime Minister Modi's statement, our enemy is reliance on other countries. When did he say that? Did he say that today? He gave an address to the nation today, which I kind of briefly caught. I was talking about GST rates and such. So are these words just words or some actions that can be expected? I'm hopeful that actions will come out of this. See, Prime Minister Modi is a man of action that we know. The action may take time because of the kind of system that we have, but he is a man of action for sure that we can be pretty certain about. So if he has said that our enemy is our reliance on other countries, I hope that he is talking about technological sovereignty there, because the entire nation depends on platforms that have been created by a country that is right now increasingly hostile towards India. Whether it is Facebook, whether it is Instagram, whether it is Google, whether it is YouTube, whether it's X, whatever, all these are foreign platforms, and we depend on these platforms for communication with each other. If the platforms disappear, we will be all separate from each other. We will have no means of communicating. Right now, we Indians take this for granted that we can communicate with each other in real time. I can instantaneously communicate with somebody who's living in Shillong, or someone who's living in Guwahati, or someone who's living in Kochi, or someone who's living in Leh. And I can talk to all these people at the same time if I want to. We all can do it. Social media has brought India together for the first time in 1,000 years. But it's a borrowed platform. It's a foreign platform. And they decide what happens on these platforms. For 3-4 years, around 5 years, my Twitter was frozen at 64,000 followers. Yeah, do you know that? And right now, do you have any idea what's happening to my YouTube? So this is what happens when we have a reliance on foreign platforms. So that is obviously an enemy for the country, our reliance on other countries. So we have to become entirely sovereign, including technological sovereignty. It's very important. So if the Prime Minister has said this, Mr. Modi has said this, I'm very hopeful that some real transformation will come about as a consequence of what he has said. I'm very hopeful. YouTube is saying there are YouTube channels created in 2022 that makes videos every week on how Russia is collapsing, and then it's indigenous republics want to secede. What's your opinion? In 2022 they were saying that Putin has got 3 months to live. He is suffering from advanced cancer. Then they were saying that more than 1 million Russian soldiers have died in 6 weeks, in 6 months. They were saying Russia is about to collapse. Russia is about to lose the Ukraine war. Ukraine is winning. Ukraine is winning this. Ukraine is winning that. Ukraine is going to wipe Russia out of Bakhmut. Ukraine is going to do this. Every day they come up with a new story that Russia is on the brink of defeat in Ukraine. Well, and I was the one who was saying Russia is winning. And people used to make fun of me. Where are we today? Where are we today? Tell me. Is Ukraine still winning? Is Russia still on the verge of collapse? Is Putin still about to die from advanced cancer? What? How long will you continue these lies? So all of this is nonsense. It's propaganda. That's my opinion, and it's a fact, by the way. MK says, would the deep state be pro or anti Second Amendment? If there is regime change in India by US, then what are the chances of the present regime come back later through elections? If there is a regime change in India through the US, the present regime will never come back. Never. Elections? Haha, what is that? Vote chori, that's when vote chori will happen. Now, what is the Second Amendment? I am not an expert on American things and all that. Let me see what is the Second Amendment. What is this? Ye kya hua? let's put Google on the screen. Let's Google the Second Amendment. See, I am aware of all these things, but I don't recollect things on demand because there's way too much information in my head. So let's see. Second Amendment. Second Amendment of Constitution. Okay, what is that? The Second Amendment is the Second Amendment of the US. Oh, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. And no, we're talking about the US Constitution, not the Indian Constitution. Would the deep state be pro or anti-US Second Amendment? I think they will not be anti-Second Amendment because that will create anarchy. The people will resist, and there's going to be civil war if you try to take away their weapons in the US. Weapons, guns, and Americans. It's an age-old romance. Americans and their guns. You can't take guns away from Americans. They're gonna put their lives on the line. They will defend their liberty with their lives. Do not tread on me, the rattlesnake. So if they try to take the guns away, there's going to be chaos and anarchy in the US and a lot of violence. Bharatiya says the way Trump's behaving, it weirdly makes one agree with the global left lunatics on how he's actually one himself and dangerously unstable and unpredictable, even on the issues that need no fixing. There is a method to Trump's madness. There is a reason why he has been given the presidency of the US. See, I said this last year, before the elections happened in the US, presidential elections. I said that it was highly unlikely that Trump will win, but if Trump does win, it will mean that he has kissed the ring, which means that he has aligned himself with the deep state. Now, whatever he is doing, it may look like lunacy. I mean, look at the way he's behaving with India. He has permanently lost the trust of India. Even after Trump is gone and there's some other US president, India won't trust the US. So is it like lunatic behavior? Is it crazy behavior? No. The US is now actively going to contain India, whoever is the president, because India is now showing the signs and symptoms of rising as a global power. India has never shown this before. From 1947 until 2014, India never showed any sign of rising, of having the ambition to rise as a global power. Not even in 1974 when we detonated a nuclear weapon, not even in 1998 when we detonated 5 nuclear weapons. Even then we had no ambition. We were a mediocre nation with zero ambition of any greatness. But from 2014 until now, India is becoming dangerous. So what Trump is doing makes sense from an American perspective. If he has set fire to the global economic order, that also makes sense from an American perspective. The American perspective is that we created an order. We created a global economic order that our enemies have exploited to enrich themselves and make themselves powerful. So we're going to dismantle the global order that we created, and we're going to create a new order. So whatever he's doing, it may look like lunacy, but it makes eminent sense logically from a strategic perspective. So yeah, he has these peculiarities and all that. His behavior is kind of weird. He is unlike any US president ever. He expects a lot of deference and all that. He wants to be treated like an emperor, all those idiosyncrasies he has. But overall, whatever actions he is taking are exactly in synchronicity with what the deep state wants. So nothing lunatic about that. Galluer says, someone's metaphor I convey. The Anglo-Saxon can't hear a syllable you utter, not until the first rumble from that caldera under its feet. Wishful maybe, but inquisitive still. Transfer the rumble and caldera to geopolitics. So caldera means the mouth of a volcano, right? The crater that is the vent of a volcano. Rumble is the warning that comes from volcano before the earthquake or before the eruption. That's what we're talking about. So the Anglo-Saxon can't hear a syllable you utter, not until the first rumble from that caldera under its feet. Wishful maybe, but inquisitive still. What are you trying to convey is the question. So the Anglo-Saxon doesn't care what you say. Blah, 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 talk, 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 until you act. And until your actions have an actual consequences, and they can start feeling the rumbles of the actions, which means that you're no longer just talking, you're taking action, and those actions will have some actual real world consequences. That's when they start listening to you and paying attention to you. And then they can categorize you as potentially dangerous, potentially to be silenced, or potentially to be eliminated or dealt with. Maybe that's what you're talking about in geopolitics. And when I say you, it means nations. So as long as India was preaching to the world, blah blah, Om Shanti, non-violence, etc., no one cared. No one cared. But now India is actually transforming itself economically, and that is sending rumbles across the world and so on. So now they are paying attention to India and taking action against India. Right. Meera says, was the student uprising in Gujarati hostel in Indira Gandhi's tenure led by JP Narayan a prologue or trial run for future student revolution? I have absolutely no idea about this Gujarat hostel. I don't know. I'm very sorry. And this is like Indian history we're talking about here, but I'm discussing geopolitics, ma'am, over here. So even if I had the answer to the question, I'm not taking history questions today. We're discussing only geopolitics. I said that in the beginning, and even the title of this live stream is geopolitics. So, and anyway, I'm not aware of this. There was a student uprising in a Gujarati hostel during Indira Gandhi's time, led by JP Narayan. No, I'm not familiar with that part of history. Sorry. Very sorry. Okay, AKS Bagga says, why don't you start a company to advise corporations on current affairs and geopolitics, just like the Eurasia Group or Peter Zahan? Well, that's an idea. That'll make me even more dangerous than I am right now, and even more inconvenient than I am right now. Do Indian corporations need this? I mean, they need this, but are they aware of the fact that they need this? The need for geopolitical forecasting and risk analysis. Oh, it's an idea. It's a good idea you're giving here. Maybe I should think about it seriously. Thank you for the idea. Maybe I may have thought of the idea actually, Who knows? Rahul Lakshmanan says, maybe Starlink will be our link to the America party. Long-term international relations, perhaps. Starlink needs to be removed from India. It is our link to nothing but vasalhood. Okay? No America party, no long-term international relations. Starlink is poison. Starlink is dangerous for India. It will empower anti-India elements. Nothing, there's no free gift in the world. There's no free service in the world. Even if the service is a paid service, still it has nefarious purposes. Starlink needs to be removed from India. It should never be operationalized in India. That is my sincere advice to the government of India. Divnur Singh says, I personally did not face any racism here in the US. In fact, the US right-wing people liked me. But is it good for Americans if H-1B visa holders go back? Is it good for Americans? Okay, I'm glad you did not face any racism. That's good. Right-wing people liked you. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Fine. Okay, now, is it good for the US if H-1B visa holders go back? I mean, what percentage of American job openings do H-1B visa holders even take? I'm just guessing out here, but I'm guessing it's about 2-3%. So let's say you have 100, hypothetically 100 job openings in the US. Most likely only 2 or 3 of the job openings will actually go to H-1B visa holders. So that's a minuscule percentage, first of all. But what kind of jobs do H-1B visa holders do generally? They do extremely important jobs. They are generally involved in technical operations, generally typically in the field of IT. They handle the IT operations for most Fortune 500 companies. They are behind the workforce. They are a significant component of the workforce in Silicon Valley and various American tech corporations and startups. So even though the number of jobs is a small percentage of the overall US job market, even then, the kind of work they're doing is critical for the US. So if you send these people back, obviously you're going to replace them with Americans, but then the expenditure shoots up, right? So I'm expecting that the H-1B visa holders will be phased out gradually in a way that's not going to cause any shocks to American Fortune 500 companies or startups or tech giants. So I don't think the H-1B visa holders are going to be evicted overnight. If they are evicted gradually, it will happen slowly. It'll be a slow process. The fact that you're going to have to pay $100,000 for each H-1B visa application going forward itself tells you that H-1B visa holder, there's going to be way fewer H-1B visa applications that will come in the first place. So overall, they are slowly phasing this visa out. And the objective is to target Indians mainly, because Indians make up about 70% of the H-1B visa applications and the H-1B visa holders who are currently in the US. So if the H-1B visa holders go back overnight, it's going to be catastrophic for the US. But if they are phased out gradually, as will most likely happen, then the US will be able to adjust and things will become more expensive for the Fortune 500 companies. And most likely those jobs will be offshored. So let's say you are a US company and you have, let's say, 1,000, for example, H-1B visa folks who work for you. Now it's going to be super expensive to renew those visas and so on. So if I was running that company, I would simply offshore those jobs to Bangalore or Hyderabad or somewhere. So I'll start a branch of my company in Bangalore or Hyderabad. I'll hire 1,000 Indian IT personnel there at higher rates than what Indians generally expect, but way lower than what American workers have to be paid. So it's win-win for me. That's most likely what will happen. YouTube says, is there any Russian lobby in Israel, like Israeli lobby in the US? Not that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of any. Dan Dave says, reality is not enough Americans for STEM jobs in the US. Most STEM courses in universities have 90% plus international students. Yes, very few Americans. They got to be okay with jobs being outsourced, I guess. Yeah, the reality is if you go to any STEM, if you go to any major American university or even non-major US university, even if it's a university that's not in the top 100 in the US, and you go to their STEM departments, physics or chemistry or biotechnology or whatever, a significant portion of the students are non-Americans. Lots of Indians everywhere. You go to any American university or college campus, you'll see Indians all over the place. Indian kids, Indian students. Um, so you're right. Most STEM courses in universities have 90% plus international students, very few Americans. So even if you get rid of the H-1B visa holders, where are you going to find the Americans who will take over in those STEM jobs? That's the question. So then the alternative is to outsource the jobs. That's the only alternative that remains until you revamp your education system and bring in more Americans who go through the STEM courses, which is going to take years, if not decades. Even and that to assuming that they start the overhaul of the education system and stop bringing in foreigners and push more Americans into that. So the only alternative is to outsource the jobs, which means that the American companies, instead of bringing in H-1B visa holders, are going to outsource the jobs to places like Hyderabad or Bangalore or maybe Manila or wherever else, right? And they're going to have people working there. And that's what, so if the objective is to have more jobs being taken over by Americans, well, it's not going to happen, right? So they're going to have no option but to outsource the jobs. And yeah, I agree with you about this. Divnur Singh says, is genocide inherently bad? Through what line of morality do we get that? If India did what Israel is doing right now, will Dharmics be okay with it? So are you saying Israel is doing a genocide right now? I am not aware of what's happening in Gaza or whatever. Some people are saying that Israel is conducting genocide. I don't know. There are conflicting reports that come out of the place. The Israelis are saying that we are simply defending our nation, and the Palestinians are terrorists, and we've got to kill the terrorists. And if there is some collateral damage, then is said. And what's the definition of genocide? Is it like 1,000 people? Is it 10,000 people? Is it 50,000 people? Is it 100,000 people? Is it a million? Where does the line start? There's no definition. Anyone can call anything genocide. But now the question